Welcome back to the How to Podcast series. My name is Dave. Glad to have you here. I do have other podcasts, I have to admit. One of them is called Living the Next Chapter, and it's an author podcast. Bring on amazing authors from around the world. 3 years we've been doing this podcast, Living the Next Chapter, and 600 episodes later, in 3 years, 200 episodes a year, everybody. Yeah. We've met some really great people, and I love the conversations we have over there, and sometimes they bleed over into what we do here on the How to Podcast series. And I got to admit, I'm not a big social media guy. I don't spend a lot of time on there with my 9 different podcasts to live on social. I tell you this, but if I only had one podcast, there's probably a lot of things I would do differently. And my approach to social media and email newsletters and all of that would probably be significantly different than what it is currently. But with what I have on my plate at the moment, social media is like the last part of my process. When I have time, I will show up there. You'll see me there here and there, but it's not it's not my first thing. So I would say that my podcast, I'm podcast first, everything else second. I know people who are social media first. Podcast is second. So that's kind of where I fit. I love my podcasts. I love meeting people and interviewing and recording and editing. And yes, I love editing. I love doing all that stuff. And all that other stuff for me is just like, if I have time, I'll get around to it. I had Nathaniel on my author podcast, Living the Next Chapter, and he has a book called Social Media Sync. And he's really good at social media, way better than I would ever be currently. And I learned a lot. And there's a lot of great things that I thought you would love to hear over here. If you're not a listener of Living the Next Chapter, I didn't want this just to go out for that show and you not benefit from Robin's great expertise over here as well. So there's a book. We'll be talking about the book. I'm going to kind of cut up the interview a little bit differently than what you're going to hear on Living the Next Chapter. So if you want to hear the full episode in its entirety, livingthenextchapter.com, and there'll be links to the podcast, and you can go hear Robin on the show. And I'll have a link to Robin's episode as well. So you can go right there in the notes, and you can listen to everything. And you could skip all of this if you want and just go to that. But if you just want the condensed version for us here on the How to Podcast series, then I'm going to chop up the interview a little bit. There's a little bit of talking over and setting some idea of what we're doing in the conversation to make it a little shorter for you and beneficial for you, specifically for podcasting. So here's my interview with Nathaniel, author of Social Media Sync. And the one thing that I found when I did my research on Robin, he has a musical background. And I'm just going to let him tell you what he did in his past musically. And I was shocked when I came across this. And it's in his book, but he talks about it a little bit on the show. But here's Robin on Living the Next Chapter, telling you a little bit about his musical background. Robin, can you please tell us, what have you done in your musical past? ... You ready? Here's Robin.
So fell in love with hip hop music at 9 years old in New York City. I can remember walking the streets as a 3rd grader with my socks pulled up to my knees, really short shorts, and hearing the sounds of MC Shan come from speakers. And I was like, what is that? Like, he's saying hip hop. What is that? Fast forward a couple of years later, I remember looking out the back window of my friend's New York City apartment, and I saw Big Daddy Kane and Biz Markie doing a video shoot, and I was like, I want to do that. And I just started writing at a very young age. At 9 years old, I started doing raps like, my name is Robbie D and the place to be. And I evolved as a writer and started recording music in my bedroom when I was a teenager. While my friends were sending their college admission letters, I was sending demo tapes to my favorite record labels. And when I was 17 years old, I got some money from a grant from community college, and I took that money and ran away from home to join the world famous Wu-Tang Clan, one of the most amazing rap groups in history and the people that I looked up to. And that's a little bit of my story. And I talk more about it in the book. But yeah, I've been pursuing music. I pursued music for most of my young adult life, right up until my late 20s. And then I had a shift in my career that we can talk about as well.
So Robin is a podcaster as well. So I asked him to tell us a little bit about his show. And here's Robin talking about his podcast and his journey. Go check out the show. It's all the links are in the show notes. But here's Robin talking about his podcast.
Yep. So I have a show called Land the Talk. I'm very similar to you, Dave. I have a couple of shows. I've been around the podcast block, have a few shows, but the show that's really aligned with my work in social media, communications, and and marketing is Land the Talk. To check it out, you can just go to landthetalk.com. That'll take you to my Substack, which will get you linked to my newsletter and all of the things that we do. But basically, it's a show that's really about giving nonprofit leaders specifically and speakers a place where they can connect with folks who can give them the tools that they need to advance in their journey and to essentially amplify their message and their mission. So we have a bunch of TEDx speakers. One of the funny things is after I finished my TEDx talk, people kept coming up to me and they were like, how'd you do that? Like, how can I land a talk? How can I land a talk? And I was like, man, I'm itching to make a new podcast. I might just have to do one called Land the Talk. And that's how it kind of started. These meetings that I was having with some of these former TEDx speakers and future TEDx speakers. Even one of my friends, his name is Joel Leon. He did an actual TED talk on the big TED stage. And, people like that, I have these conversations with, and I was like, there's so much value that I'm getting as a speaker and just a human that I want to have those conversations publicly. And that's what led to Land the Talk.
So on top of being a podcaster, Robin is also an author. And again, his book is Social Media Sync. Link in the show notes. I was asking him how his book, Social Media Sync, helps people navigate the complex world and ever-changing world of social media. What is the intent of this book and what's in it for readers for Social Media Sync?
The book can help folks from all fields, right? Basically, Social Media Sync will give authors a structured framework and a playbook to kind of go off of so they're not getting caught up with the speed of social media changes, updates, algorithms, right? My whole concept and my whole vision for social is looking at social media with an algorithm-proof lens. What we do so often is we watch people like the CEO of Instagram, for example, Adam Mosseri. This gentleman jumps on his live on Instagram, Dave, and he'll be like, okay, guys, today I need you guys to make sure that you're prioritizing stories. Prioritize stories. They're the most heavily weighted, feature that we have in Instagram. That's what you need to do. Do it now. And then people run. Oh, get my phone. I got to do a story. Hey, Adam told me to do a story. I'm going to do a story.
Now, this is really where I get frustrated with gurus in podcasting who are super social media centric, very focused on social media. You got to promote your episode. You got to be on social. You got to live there. You got to feed the machine. You got to be on the hamster wheel of social, and you got to post 24 hours after your episode go live, 48 hours, 72 hours after. You need carousels and this, and you need that, and you need to write a blog post, and you got to do, a newsletter, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to have a TikTok, and they just keep pouring it on. And it's this moving target. Even the creator of the platform can't make up his mind on what is the most important thing in the moment. And we're chasing our tails. It's just the most annoying part of all of this. You never feel like you're really doing it right. And they're not showing your content to everybody that follows you anyway. So you're spending all this time trying to build community on a platform that is like shifting sand. It's a quicksand. You just get stuck and you get trapped in creating content. And Robin goes on to explain that one moment the creator of Instagram's telling you to do this, and then this happens.
The next day, same guy, same platform, will jump online and say, hey guys, I know I told you stories yesterday, but today it's something new. You need to focus on your DMs. So what's happening, especially for people who aren't super fluent with social media, they're overwhelmed. They're like, dude, like I can't keep up with this. And I don't have the bandwidth to like change my strategy and plan every day.
So, Robin, how does your book help then in a world where social media is constantly evolving, changing? Everyone's chasing the algorithm and the what's new and what's latest in social media. How does your book help?
What social media sync does for folks, it gives them a framework that will stand the test of time for social media. That's the vision for it. These are things that worked when we were on MySpace. As a musician, Dave, I'm sure you remember MySpace, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I started my career as a social media professional with MySpace. I didn't know it was a career at the time. I just was on in the Wild Wild West like everyone else. Like you can talk to people in Australia on your computer. Like what the hell, right? So I think if it worked then, it can work now. The trick is not to get tied up in the vanity metrics. In the book, we talk about reassessing metrics and looking at things like reach, impressions, views. These are the metrics that we see in the, in the space and in the industry. However, if we're trying to get someone to connect with what we create, really, I think the metrics should be things like DM initiations. How many times has someone sent you a DM and said, hey, I love that post. Can I learn more? Those are the relationships and the interactions that we really need to pour into. And this is coming from a guy who has several videos that have done over 2 million views on TikTok, right? So I've had viral videos, but those comments and those successful videos are not the ones that move the needle for me. The ones that move the needle are the comments that I get on YouTube that say, hey, Robin, I just watched your talk and I've been meaning to reach out to my mom for a couple of years. We haven't spoken. And because of your talk, I did that. That's what it's about.
So I talked to Robin about the idea that we need to put social back in social media and that being a real human on social will stand out because everyone's using these automated tools. They're making all these posts for them. It's all going out in batches. And we're posting and ghosting. We're just there. We drop a bunch of content and we leave. And the idea of social media was that we're supposed to be interacting with each other and staying on the platform longer, having conversations, building community, engaging with people who like our content. And just the idea that we need to be real human beings on social media. And when I mentioned this in the interview, you can hear the entirety of what I said by going to the episode. But Robin's comment in response was funny. And so the idea about being social on social media, here's Robin's response to my thoughts, because I really believe in this as well. But here's Robin's response.
Hey, Dave, did you read the book? Because you sitting here, hey, man, stop trying to steal my thunder, man.
Right?
No, but just...
Yeah.
Dave, you are spot on. Like there's a quote in the book where we say, remember when social media was social, right? And I think what you're saying is hitting the nail directly on the head with force. And I'll share a quick story. When I started my business back, I want to say it was in 2017. It's the first time that I ever got somebody to pay for something, with my business, right? So I celebrated as June 25th, right? That's my anniversary for my business. And at the time I was selling music production. I was selling beats to people, getting rappers to buy my beats and singers to buy my beats. And the way that I built my early following with that particular service was doing what you said. And I would even take it a step further. At the time, I was working in in Lower Manhattan. I'm sorry, Midtown Manhattan, close to the United Nations. So I would walk over to United Nations and I would connect with these international musicians and be like, I'd get my phone out and I would just record them a video message like, "Hey, Jim, thank you so much for showing some interest. Really excited to work with you. As you see, we're here at the United Nations and we want to just maintain this international connection. Love from New York City. Talk to you soon." And people would be blown away, Dave. And it wasn't me trying to be like sleazy or scammy. It was me being like, yo, like me standing in front of the United Nations could impact him to be like, yo, I'm this small MC out in Scandinavia, and this producer from New York is reaching out to me in front of in front of the United Nations. And I think being intentional to that level is how you build lifelong supporters and fans, and eventually advocates.
And that's the Taylor Swift effect. The hat for the song 22 on the Eras tour. She would have a hat and she would dance down the stage to one lucky fan who would be at the end of the stage, and she'd give the hat to them, have a moment with that fan. Everyone in the building would love to be that fan, and Taylor would probably love to give everybody a hat. That's kind of who she is. But she can't do that for everyone. There's thousands of people there. So she does for one that she wishes she could do for all. And I think as creators of podcasts and content and authors and whatever you're doing, honor the one. Like really hone in on the one and give them a meaningful interaction with you as the foundation for what you wish you could do for everyone. When you're first starting, it's relatively easier because you have a smaller audience to highlight and honor that one person that's listening to your show. So you might have to go out and buy a hat and dance down the stage and give it to them, but just honor that one person and really focus in on them. And that's something that Robin talks about in his book, is how you can do that.
And in this era of social, with the rise of AI, and that's a big part of the book. And for me, that's why I wanted to write it now. This edition of it, I think I might have to do future editions, but with the rise and rapid rise of artificial intelligence, the human connection is slowly but surely eroding. You see more automated comments in on these platforms than we've ever seen before. You see more automation than ever before. Things are being put into systems that don't require human touch at this point. So in my firm belief, I think in the next 5 years, the human touch will be valued higher than it's ever been. I believe there'll even be a point where there will be a premium on human-made items content. Very similar to handcrafted, right? When you go to a fair and you see a person who made the basket with their hands, and they'll be like, no, I made this with my hands. It's handcrafted. I believe very soon we're going to be in a space where that's the way people are going to look at content online. They're going to be like, this was 100% written by a human. Here's the proof. And I believe that this book will give us kind of an early foundation specifically for social. And for authors, I think reading it is a part of it. The next part is actually putting it into action and just getting yourself out there to produce some of this social media content to get the word out about your book.
About your book, about your podcast, about whatever you're creating. And I mentioned back to Robin in the interview that it's that face-to-camera interaction that you have with your audience when you do something special for them and do it on purpose, calling them out by name and acknowledging them in real time, how meaningful that is for people to cut through all the other stuff that people are doing en masse and in bulk. When you do something special and unique for one person, again, the Taylor Swift analogy and thing we talked about, it sets you apart from all of the other content out there. And that's an indicator to the social media platform that people are engaging with you. And that's kind of how social media is supposed to work. For you as a podcaster or whatever you're doing, is Focus on the one.
Yep. And I think that because of artificial intelligence, there's going to be a lot of things that look the same, right? It kind of happens. You scroll. Is that the same ad from a different company? Oh, it's a similar product from two different companies. Like, these algorithms are as smart as they've ever been. And I think an easy way for authors to kind of stand out is to really lean into your content from your book, whether that's taking a screenshot. One of the videos that I did since launching the book that did pretty well was me doing a video of me flipping through the book, putting some on-screen text with a trending audio sound, and it performed pretty well, right? Something as simple as that is you getting the word out about your book, but with your voice. Another thing they can do is actually just read a couple of chapters. Like, oh my God, this is like the chapter that I really like. I wanted to share it with you. If you want more, you can go purchase the book or just send me a DM. We can talk more about it. And I think that uh, instead of creating ads, because I think that's what we think when we think marketing, right? We're like, okay, so let me create some ads. These videos will be ads. Hey, go buy my book, buy. People don't want you to ask them to buy anything. People just want to meet you. Think about it like meeting somebody at the coffee shop. You're not going to run up on them and like, hey, Dave, listen, here's my book. Here, Dave, nice to meet you. Here's my book, buy my book. It's more like, hey, Dave, what are you into? Like, where do you work? And just whatever the equivalent of that is for you with your audience. That's where I would start, with awareness and getting them to know, like, and trust you, as opposed to pushing a sale on them in the first interaction.
For so, Social Media Sync is not a book. It's specific to any specific platform. So it's not just Instagram. It's not just Facebook. It's not just TikTok. It kind of covers all of social media. And Robin talks about this more.
Social media as a whole, including platforms that are not here yet. And I think that's one thing that I see in the space. It's a lot of like hacks. It's hack driven. It's like, here are the 5 tips. Here's the time you need to post. Here's the platform that's working the best. This type of content is working now. And there's value there. So I won't discount it, especially for my colleagues and people in the space. I'm not trying to discount that, because there are times when I have to give very similar advice. I do this full time. I also have a business that I do it. And then I also, like, as a practitioner, as a creator, I'm doing it as well. So that's one thing I would say. Like, there is value in some of the hacky stuff, but hacks don't last. And I think that folks who are reading right now and they're looking for something, whether it's for their professional journey, if you are a person in the marketing field and want to become more equipped for your day-to-day task, or if you're just a leader in general and you're like, my marketing department, they don't know what the heck they're doing on social. Let me try to get some resources for them, or let me read up on it so I can help. Especially for new people, this is a great foundation. If you don't have anything to refer to and you start with this, I believe in this era of AI, this will set you apart and help you to be way ahead of your competitors or other folks in your industry.
I asked Robin, how much do we need to know about social media to benefit from his book, Social Media Sync?
I think it can work for a beginner level social media person. I don't think you need to have had much experience. You need to have some knowledge of general social media, like it exists. The power of it. What Facebook is and stuff like that. But you don't need to, it's not a very technical book. It's not like, hey, press this button and this button does this. It's more philosophical. It's more based on ideas that I've been using for my own work, my clients, as well as in my, my day-to-day work. I work in local government, and concepts that I bring to those platforms. I've also worked in the nonprofit sector. I've also worked in the private sector for social media. So for me, I have a unique lens on how I look at it. And this book is almost like the sum of that to date. Again, this will evolve, but these concepts and theories, I believe, will last the test of time as long as we're doing social in this way. There might be 10, 15 years where it'll be hands off social. There's a microchip in your head. I haven't written that version yet, right? But we could easily be there with the advancement of technology happening at, breakneck speed. However, for a beginner level social media person, whether you know a little bit about it or you work in the field, it's a great read. I share a bunch of stories, including my Wu-Tang story, about my journey as a professional, and I tie it in to the general framework.
In a world where social media is changing all the time, new platforms coming, how did you, Robin, make social media sync future-proof with everything that might happen in the future? How did you keep that in mind when you wrote your book?
For me, most of the concepts are concepts that have been around for years. Framing it with the technology, it's almost looking at it like these are the passengers that we're using for this vehicle, but I'm focused on the passengers. So whatever vehicle we put them in, whether it's my sync framework, simple is S, Y is yield to your intentions, N is natural, right? And C is change it up. These concepts and this framework worked for my TEDx talk. In just general human connection, right? Being intentional about how we connect with humans, especially when we say goodbye. And the same thing works for social media. If we can flip a switch in our mind to not look at social media as this thing that we do, as look at it more as a tool that we use to deepen our connections with people online, that would hopefully lead to some kind of whether it's a business relationship, personal relationship. I have family members in the UK that I use social media to communicate with them on a deep level because that's the tool that we have. So regardless of the actual platform or technology, the concepts will still remain relevant.
Yeah, so in the future, when new technology comes, you're like, oh, this platform is no longer available anymore. And you're like, oh, no, that's old news. And people laugh, MySpace, right? When technology changes, social media sync is something that's future-proof and something you can take with you into the future. So a good book for you to have on your library shelf when you start thinking about social media.
Yeah. And I believe it's in the intro, like very early in the book, I say something like that, where it's like, this book is not, the hack tip, what platform, follow the TikTok trend. It's not that kind of book. And I think once folks go into it, I think it also sets them at ease a little bit, because that's the part of it that's overwhelming for folks. And I have some, sub frameworks under sync that also help to tie things in for people, tie things up for people, and help it become very relatable for their day to day. So it's not like they're learning this whole new thing. It's almost like they're taking things that are normal to them in day to day and trying to connect them to these frameworks.
How can a podcaster in 2025 be relevant on social media around their show?
I think the most important thing, Dave, is just being your authentic self. We are caught up in the makeup room. People are in the makeup room like, I got to get my makeup right. I got to get my hair right. I got to make sure I got the right shirt on. I need to make sure my lighting is right. And there's value there. I'm not going to totally write that off. However, there's nothing more impactful than showing up as your true self. And sometimes the makeup room can be the barrier between you and your audience. So getting so caught up on all of these minor details in the grand scheme of things and forgetting that the most important part of it all is what's on your heart, what's a part of your philosophy of life, your beliefs, your values, the things that will come from your mouth, right? And the things that you'll share or the things that you'll write that come from your mind, that's what will move the needle. So I think showing up as your authentic self is the most important part of it.
What are we doing on social media that detracts from our message on social media? What are we doing wrong?
trying to sell. I think that that's the biggest mistake that I see from folks. And again, like, you're a consumer, Dave. I'm sure when somebody sends you a direct message in LinkedIn and they're like, "Hey, Dave, I see that you make music. Wanted to see if you want to jump on a quick 15-minute call about my consultation services that can help you land 3 clients this month." And you're like, "What? Who? Like, what's happening?" I think that's the biggest thing that I see that really is killing social media and killing the concept of it. Again, there's a time and a place to sell. Like, folks who have products and services, don't get it twisted. I'm not saying you shouldn't sell. I just believe there's a time and a place for it. And the time is not with your first interaction with someone in their DMs, for example. And also, if it's content that's going to go out through a algorithm driven, mechanism like Reels or TikTok or something like that, YouTube Shorts, then I would be very conscious of how many of those videos or pieces of content are sales driven and how many of them are value based. Because if we can lean into the value, people will follow. If you do things online that provide genuine value to folks and they're aligned with your belief systems and they support that way of thinking, then it's just a matter of time before you move the needle.
Should we create content for the algorithm, or should we create content for our audience?
For me, of the two options, I would say for the audience. And I think that where we are is most content creators are like, they work for the algorithm. They're like, "Oh, algorithm said this," just like I said earlier. Adam, did you see Adam's video? Hey, like, we got to start doing stories now. Hey, you got to use hashtags. Wait a minute. He said, don't use hashtags. Change the order, order in, order out. It's like I'm in this space and my head is spinning, Dave. Like, I'm talking to my team. I lead a small team of social media professionals, award-winning social media professionals, I'll add. And they, it's hard for us to keep up, and we work here. So imagine for folks who don't, like, work in the field trying to keep up. So for me, I think if you focus in on, especially for authors and, folks in their, respective industries, focusing in on who that ideal client, ideal reader, ideal fan is, doing the exercise. If you've never done a customer avatar exercise or an ideal audience avatar, there's tons of tools out there. But if you reach out to me, I'd love to share some resources with you on this stuff. I eat that stuff up. And once you can identify who that ideal person is, you can start targeting or directing all of your content and messaging towards that person. Some people fear that, hey, if I just speak to this, woman in Wisconsin with 2 kids and a Cadillac, that I'll, leave out or exclude, other people. In fact, I believe the more you dial into this person, the more your connection to them will attract others who are similar to them. So you don't need to have multiple avatars. You can, depending on the size of your company. For example, Coca-Cola, Disney, companies like that have multiple customer avatars, right? And they talk to different people. Hey, this ad is for Jim. This one is for Sally. They name them, they give them faces and personas, the whole 9 yards. Start with one. It's a fun exercise, and I believe it'll bring you closer to that audience engagement that will help, to grow whatever it is that you're working on.
And as we create our podcast, we're creating it for a certain audience. And so, like, I have Dad Space, podcast for dads by dads, and I focus on conversations around men and specifically fathers. And even though I'm focused on that unique audience and very specific audience, a large portion of my listenership are female that come to the Dad Space podcast. And I find that to be encouraging, because even though I'm limiting my focus to a certain group of people, more people are finding value in it and coming to the show and sticking with the show, even though they're not my target market for my podcast. And I just think we have some flexibility as content creators to have a narrow focus, but be all inclusive as well. even though we're talking to a certain group, everyone's welcome. So, yeah, I think that's something that we can really leverage as podcasters as well when we're working through social media.
I love that. I think that's poetic, and congratulations to you, because I think that that can inspire someone who has that concern about limiting their audience by niching down or really focusing in on one target audience member. And I think that's huge that you're seeing those results.
Okay, so my very simple approach for social media, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Robin, is social media platforms love it when people come and stay on their platform and interact with each other, do social, put social back in social media, everything we've talked about. They want people to come to the platform and to be active on the platform. So people who attract people to the platform and keep them longer tend to be the ones that a platform would like to promote, because it means more people are coming to the platform. That just makes sense in my simple thinking. I'm not an expert in social media like you are, but when I think of it in those terms, I think anything we can do on social that brings community together, encourages conversation and interaction, is a beneficial use of the platform. So no matter what platform you pick, be active, be social, be engaging, and the platforms will reward that kind of behavior to some degree, however the platform works. Am I on the right path there? Building our world on social media doesn't have to be difficult. It can be something that we're just very intentional about. And the time we do have to pour into social media, we pour into people, not just the algorithm. So we can build our world on social media. Am I in the right direction there?
It's great. I love that you said building your world, because that's, again, Dave, you're in my head. Like you're my like unofficial co-author of the book, because I mentioned this concept of building worlds and universes around social. So it's one of my favorite chapters. But to answer your question, I'll start with the folks out there, right? So for people and the balance, and then I'll talk a little bit about my own journey. So when I sit down with people for consultations, the first thing I ask is, talk to me about your team, talk to me about your bandwidth. So often when people go into social media to create something or to bring awareness around whatever it is that they're pouring themselves into, they get overwhelmed because they try to do all the things for everybody. So what I always say is, do an audit of your time. Like, I call it the joy audit. It's the first time I did it. I lost my brother in 2021, and when he passed away, I was so depressed, and I was so like, I was in a really messed up place. Like, it hit harder than even losing my mom, because when I lost my mom, I was 17 years old. I didn't even know how to unpack losing someone and having to mourn for someone. When my brother passed away, I was a grown man with two kids, feeling his pain, my niece's pain, losing their dad. It was just tough. My dad losing his second son. My dad had two sons pass away. So I was kind of carrying all of that. And I said, I need to figure out where I'm putting my time, because I don't have time for anything right now, because I need time for me. And I did what I called at the time a joy audit. It's a minute by minute inventory of what I did, from sleep to to waking up, to going to work, to my commute, and then identifying what I was doing in those times. Even if in my commute I was doing something like, was I listening to podcasts? Was I listening to music? And once I did that, it gave me an understanding of how much time I had to work with. And then from there, I could really just identify the bandwidth that I had for social. And how important was social? Was social like up there with like spending time with my wife and my kids? Was social up there with work? Was social up there with me actually creating podcast content? And once I figured out what my bandwidth was for it, I could move forward. So that would be my recommendation to folks is do an audit of your time, pull out a piece of paper or pull out your calendar and write down what you do during those times. Now I get it. We have complicated lives. So if you need to kind of streamline it, you can create buckets. My buckets are really simple. It's connect, create, and contribute. So connecting is anytime I'm like having a phone call or a podcast or I'm with my kids or my wife and we're just connecting, human connection. That's connecting. Creating is when I'm doing anything from writing, creating video content, cooking, making a sandwich. I create that. That counts as create time for me. And then contribute. Contribute is like when I'm at work, when I'm on a shoot with a client, those kind of things. So your buckets might look different, but that's what I would recommend is start with the joy audit. Now, just to quickly answer about where I am in the journey, right now, Sundays are really my content creation night. My wife, my two kids, they are on board. They support that daddy is a speaker and an author and a social media strategist. So they know that I need this time, not just for my business and to generate revenue for our family, but also for my creative expression. Like it's good for me. It helps me to be a better dad and a better husband and a better professional to have that space. So they give me those evenings, probably about 9 o'clock until I go to sleep, to create for the week. And then from there, I have some systems in place where maybe I might auto publish on certain platforms or I might schedule out the posts. And then throughout the week, I'm just doing like upkeep and maintenance where I'm like you said, responding to comments in the DMs, things of that nature as needed.
So is it best to pick the platform that we think our ideal audience is on? Or are we picking the platform that we like to use the most? Because, like, I might love one platform, but from my research and talking to my audience, they're on a totally different platform that I don't use. So should I migrate to where my audience is, or should I get my audience to come to me? Like, what's your advice for a podcaster trying to build community on a platform? Where do we start?
I think it depends on the stage of their business or their project, right? So you could be new to social media, but you might have been podcasting for 10 years, right? So if you have data or if you have access to your audience, a survey is where I would start if you have audience, right?
Okay, so that's a key point. Now, we're going to have an episode coming up about audience engagement surveys around your show. So that's in the works. So I'm glad to hear Robin's on that path. That's a confirmation that we're heading the right path for this show. Asking your audience and polling your audience, getting feedback. An audience survey is a great tool for you as a podcaster, so keep that in mind. Robin continues here.
So find out from them. And then from there, I would look at the data and then decide based on what you know and like. So let's say you like Facebook and you know that's where you spend most of your time. And let's say, 50% of your people like Instagram and then another 30% like Facebook. It might be worth going Facebook just because you know it, and Instagram and Facebook speak to each other because they're under the same umbrella. So that's where I would start is if you have information, do a survey and get that information and then figure out a balance between what you like and what where your people are. If you're starting fresh blank, like you're starting up a platform, I would go where you like to go. So if you use TikTok, if you use X, whatever platform you use the most, I would do that. If you don't use anything, and this is where the fun starts. If you don't use anything, you're creating something from scratch. I would strongly recommend 2 channels. One is a new channel. One is an existing platform that has been there for years. I'll start with that one. If I was starting from scratch and I didn't know anything about social, I would actually start with YouTube. That's where I would pour into. I would pour into YouTube. YouTube will give you the opportunity to publish, like you can do images and stuff on YouTube as well. But the fact that it's so it's integrated with Google essentially, it's just a huge reach opportunity. And also, unlike the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the X's of the world, the Twitters of the world, there's a longer shelf life for your content. So I've heard stories, Dave. I used to work for vidIQ for a while, which is one of the premier software companies that offered YouTube services. I was one of their founding creator coaches. And one thing that I learned there from working with so many creators is that folks had videos take off years after they were published. So like a video didn't do anything for 3 years. Something happened in the news, something happened on the platform that triggered the video to go off, and it went off later. So that's where I would start. Now I'll share the second platform if I was starting today and I didn't do social. And this one is good. If you don't know about it, there's a platform called Substack. Substack is where I would put my energy if I didn't do YouTube or if I was going to pick two platforms. And I'll tell you why. Substack is actually a writing platform. So for the authors, it's a great place for you to kind of exercise your ideas, right? But also the secret hack to it, maybe let me take that back. I retract that. Not secret hack. The secret magic superpower is the fact that you own your audience. Unlike any other platform, if you go to Instagram and you say, hey, Instagram, I want to download an Excel of all of my followers, they'll be like, what? You got to pay, or like you can do ads, but you can't do that. Every other platform is the same way. You cannot take your audience. You are operating on rented land. Doesn't belong to you. They could cancel your account tomorrow. You're finished. Everything you built, gone overnight. Substack, however, they have an email list built into it. So you can essentially build a newsletter with an email audience. People subscribe. You own the email list that you can take to any platform. You can download it and take it to any platform you want. Secondly, their notes feature, which lives inside of their ecosystem. It's the Notes app, essentially, which lives in Substack. It reminds me of like maybe early 2000s Twitter almost. It's vibing right now. People are talking, community building, connecting. There's a DM feature there. It's just a lot of fun poking around there. So I'm relatively new to the Notes app, but I've been using Substack for a couple of years now, and I would strongly recommend folks check it out.
I asked Robin what his takeaway is about his book and how it's going to help us, kind of his elevator pitch for the book, and what it is, the big picture. What are we going to get out of this book? Why should we fall in love with this book? Why should we share this book with another podcaster? And this is what Robin said.
First of all, I want to just express gratitude. I want to thank you for taking time to support and purchase my book. I know there are tons of books all over the world, and you decided to choose mine, and for that, I'm grateful. Secondly, I pray and hope that you put some of the content that you learn and some of the lessons that you learn from these frameworks into action. And I'll also add that many of the frameworks can work for our human interactions as well. So if you read it with a lens of with a human lens, there's actually lessons and frameworks that will work in your day-to-day interactions as well. Enjoy the book, and do me a big favor, shoot me a message wherever on LinkedIn or email me and let me know what you thought about it.
My thanks to Robin for being on the show. And again, if you want to hear the entire episode without all the edits and all the cuts and the little jump ins like I'm doing right now, you can go over to the link in the show notes to hear the entire podcast. And it has a little more author focused in that one compared to this one, being more focused on you, the podcaster. But Robin, again, thank you so much for being part of the show and for another great book.
Thank you so much, Dave. See you soon.
Everybody, as we gonna head towards the door here, I'm going to be bringing a few more episodes from Living the Next Chapter and some of the other shows that I do that have value for you. Because again, I don't expect you to go listen to all of my shows in all the different places, and I don't want you to miss a great conversation that could really help you with your podcast. So if there's an author or a book that you love, that you would love me to interview that author on the show and get a little more deeper into the content, if there's a book around podcasting or whatever, I'd love to hear from you, and I will go after that guest and that author, have them on. And if you have questions for me, I'll ask your questions to that author as well over on Living the Next Chapter, or I'll have them right here on this show if it's related to podcasting and content creation. So keep me in mind. If you know a great author, you'd love to hear more from them, Reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. My question for you as we wrap up is, what platform are you choosing? How are you going to be social and put social back into social media? How are you going to honor your audience and be creatively fun and engaging and present on that platform? And what platform do you prefer? I'd love to know. Anything to do around social media, howtopodcast.ca is my website, and there's a speak pipe, there's email, there's all that stuff. Let me know what you're doing. Where are you? And if you're on a platform somewhere, come find me, because I'm probably there, and I'd love to connect with you there as well. Always great to connect with you as a listener. And if you ever want to come on the show yourself as a guest and be one of my guest co-hosts on this podcast to talk about your journey, you don't even have to have a show yet, but you're in the process of creating something. Howtopodcast.ca. My calendar's right there. Let's have a conversation. Thank you for being here. More great episodes coming up. And again, thanks, Robin, for being part of the show. And more great episodes right around the corner. Come right back. See you soon. Hey, thanks for being here. Thank you for listening to the end of the podcast. You're here with me. I'm so grateful. I want to put something in front of you. For the person that's listened this far, you're my new best friend. So what I'm trying to do every month is I have a goal, and you can help me with this goal. Very simple. What I'm trying to do is have 5 conversations this month with listeners of the How to Podcast series. You don't have to have a podcast to respond. This can be the first time ever that we're going to have a conversation, but I'm looking to talk to 5 people. Now, you're still here, so you're one of the people that I would love to talk to next. So on my howtopodcast.ca website is a calendar, and I'd love to have you respond on howtopodcast.ca. Just click the calendar link, set up time in my calendar, and in the comments section for the meeting, just put something like listener. That's it. If you have a show, put it in the comments too so I can go listen. But if you don't, I just want to talk to 5 listeners every month from now to the end of the month. So if you're listening to me right now, you're the person I want to talk to. And through howtopodcast.ca, you and I can get together, chat about the show, chat about your journey as a podcaster. Where are you at? What do you need this show to become for you? What's missing? Your feedback. I just want to meet you. And as podcasters, I would encourage you to do something similar to this in your podcast so that you can meet and interact with your audience. So, howtopodcast.ca, I'm looking to talk to 5 people every month, and I would love for you to be one of them. Reach out. It's free. I'm not selling you anything. I just want to talk to you at howtopodcast.ca. Let's get in the calendar and chat. Thanks for listening.